What is going on, everybody? It is Dylan with Astrodfs, bringing you a brand new video. Today's video, I'm going over Week 17's Monday Night Showdown on DraftKings and Fanduel between the Bills and the Bengals. This is a very anticipated game with the playoffs coming up, of seeing two franchise quarterbacks going at it, two defenses that have been on the top half, and there's not any injuries in this game. There's not a lot of value in this game, so we're gonna try to dissect it as best as we can. So with no injuries, that leaves us not a lot of opportunity for value. I usually start off these videos by going over some of the value, and there's not a lot, especially on the Cincinnati side. There's not a lot. So you get Hayden Hurst at 3K. Bills have yet to give up a touchdown to a tight end. It doesn't mean that it's impossible for Hayden Hurst, but it is not a good scenario for him. He is 3K though, so you don't need him to really pop off all that much. But value-wise, there's not a lot of guys here. So Isaiah McKenzie at 2,800 is another play. He's going to be on the field quite a bit, as well as Cole Beasley, 2,400. I think Isaiah McKenzie for 2,800 is a good play. Has a good matchup against the Cincinnati secondary. I think both wide receivers and quarterbacks are just the play tonight for the most part. But Isaiah McKenzie, Cole Beasley, two guys at 2,800 and 2,400 on DraftKings, in play against, a bad secondary in both aspects. Not fully bad to where they give up a lot of yards and stuff like that, but where the secondary plays above the talent level is the best way that I could describe it. I could see this game being a very high-scoring game, or see both teams kind of struggle to move the ball down, just because sometimes you have those games where defenses step up and you get two really good offenses, and it's just a battle of staying in the game because you don't want to fall behind against either one of these offenses. So I think this could be a game where we see that possibly happening, even though we have two very high-powered offenses. But, with playoffs coming around, that's how you kind of want it, is to not give your opponent the lead, basically. And it's not saying that defensively, it's offensively. You don't want to give them good field position. You don't want to do anything to help the opposing offense get any edge. So if we go on FanDuel and look at these prices, we get Isaiah McKenzie here at 7,500, Hayden Hurst at 7,500, and then we go down and we get Cole Beasley at 5,000. So you get a discount on Cole Beasley on FanDuel versus DraftKings. I don't think for what Cole Beasley did in these two games that he deserves a $2,400 salary. He should probably be under $2,000, and rightfully so. So other than that, we have Nyheim Hines here at 1,200 on DraftKings. Also a play, the return man. So he has that potential. But, if we look at some of his offensive volume, there's not really a lot there. 2, 1, 1, and 2 for the targets, which is kind of what you want him to get points out of. I don't think it's necessarily bad, but with James Cook and Devin Singletary there as well, it's very risky. Other than that, there's not a lot. Like, Shakir is probably the only other person, and if you look at his games, doesn't really get in the game that much. So, especially with Cole Beasley being there, I can't really see him getting a whole lot of work at this time. That's pretty much it for values on DraftKings. FanDuel, you go look and you get Shakir here at 6,000. Same thing for FanDuel. There's not a lot as far as value. Samaje Perine, I guess, at 8,000 is a more likable play on FanDuel versus DraftKings. He's 4,600. He's still a little too expensive for my liking personally. But let's go over some of the pay-ups. So Both sides have your top 6 almost similar. Allen, Burrow, Chase, Diggs. FanDuel has Mixon, Higgins. DraftKings has Higgins, Mixon. So a bit of a difference there. And both quarterbacks are in play, obviously. 2 franchise quarterbacks. This is a huge, huge game. Not only just for placement, but getting a feel of what you're going to be seeing in the playoffs in 2 weeks, basically. You look at Joe Burrow's numbers. Last 2 weeks, 7 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. And facing some fairly good defenses, I'd say. New England and Tampa Bay still able to move the ball efficiently. You see the battle week 13 against Kansas City. You get a good kind of look at playoff Bengals there as well. And then we go look at Josh Allen, last week against the Bears. And I think what was a windy, cold, uncomfortable game, which Josh Allen should know much of. He plays in Buffalo. But still, you look at Josh Allen's numbers lately, rushing quite a bit. I know if you look at the beginning of the season, it was kind of on and off of where his rushing was. But lately, 10, 8, 10, 10, 6. So, and you look at some of the defenses too at that New England, the Jets, Miami, Chicago's no. But you look at those defenses, kind of defenses that blitz and strong in the box. And he's able to take off, get some rushing touchdowns in there as well. But touchdown-wise, you look at his numbers, he's only got 7 in the last 3 compared to Joe Burrow's 7 in the last 2. Hasn't been there as much with the passing touchdowns. I believe this can change this game. I like both quarterbacks. I think this is a slate where you get both quarterbacks in your lineup and then figure everything else out. I think both quarterbacks are in your highest scorers. Now going to corners, or wide receivers, I'm sorry. Jamar Chase, I'm going to stay away. I think Jamar Chase is a wide receiver I stay away from. I'm okay with playing Stephon Diggs. Lately, 6, 10, 4. This is easily a bounce-back game for Stephon Diggs and Josh Allen against Cincinnati's corners, who aren't the greatest. But still, they play very well. I think the chemistry of Cincinnati is why they do as good as they do. But I believe Stephon Diggs, Gabe Davis, Isaiah McKenzie have some pretty good opportunities tonight. I'm more looking at T. Higgins tonight for the Bengals rather than Jamar Chase. Obviously, T. Higgins kind of being that short, medium route wide receiver for the Bengals, kind of the safe receiver almost. Jamar Chase obviously being a crazy route runner, the deep threat, which is great on a slate like this, don't get me wrong. But for a cheaper option for a guy that's putting up 10 plus fantasy points and 2 of them in the last 5 games above 25 points, it's crazy, that upside, especially like a game like tonight. Joe Mixon, though, I think I'm staying away from the running backs as much as I can. Both teams play very good against the run. You look at Mixon's numbers since week 11, 2.9, 6.9, 1.9, 4.1. But in that aspect, he's also getting a lot more in the receiving game, especially the last 2 weeks. 6 and 9 targets the last 2 weeks. So maybe with the receiving upside, I like Mixon. I'd rather go P. Ryan as a receiving back. But yeah, I think Mixon, Devin Singletary especially, although he's been able to break out and have some really good rushing games this year, just with James Cook there, Naheem Hines there, I think it's too risky to kind of rely on one running back. I believe their running back room is kind of what they ideally like right now. And if any running back starts to struggle, they can always put in another running back, and they should see somewhat success. So staying away from the running backs for the most part. But Gabe Davis here at 6,400 is another play. Both him and Stephon Diggs are probably my 2 receivers for the Buffalo Bills that I'd play the most. But Isaiah McKenzie is still there that we talked about earlier. But at 6,400, We go look at his price on FanDuel, and he's right there at 11. So you're still paying a hefty price for him on FanDuel. DraftKings, you start to hit that mid-tier price. I mentioned James Cook, but Tyler Boyd here at 5,000, and on FanDuel at 9,000. So you're kind of getting a value here, getting a pretty good matchup against Buffalo. I think going off grade alone, having the best matchup against the Bills tonight. But at 5,000, if you want to get exposure to two Bengals skill position players, you go Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins. I think it's a lot more affordable than trying to go Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, because then you can't stack up your Buffalo side as much either. But Tyler Boyd at 5,000 is definitely a play. I think Dawson Knox is playable. Obviously, I talked about Cincinnati not giving up a lot to tight ends as well as Buffalo. But you look at his numbers, and he's got 3 touchdowns in the last 3 games. So a touchdown streak, and we've kind of seen the trend in the NFL of that kind of happening. But at 4,800, I think he's definitely worth getting in some lineups tonight. On FanDuel, he's right there at 9,500, so right there next to Tyler Boyd as well. P. Ryan, I mentioned, I do like him tonight. His price isn't the most desirable for me. And you look at his receiving game, and he's got 10 targets in the last 3 games. His fantasy points aren't necessarily there, but like I said, a game like tonight, you do whatever you can to win. So 4,600, and we go and look on FanDuel. He's gone there 8,000. I'm okay with paying. The defenses, I'm not really going to go with the defenses tonight, although I think they can be playable, especially Buffalo. Seems like their secondary is kind of getting a little more comfortable, but it's really hard to take a defense with how good these offenses can be. But I am looking at both kickers tonight. Evan McPherson, obviously one of, I think, the future kickers of the league. Being a star, just getting those opportunities is just the Bengals offense is very clutch right now. And then Tyler Bass as well. Obviously, we're going to see these teams try to go for it more. Like I mentioned, you want to make the other offense be in as poor of a position as it can be. But I think both kickers can be in play tonight. You know, like I said, basically this is the playoff game. But it's getting to where you want to be as close as possible. So you don't want that team to get a 2-touchdown lead, a 2-possession lead. So you're going to do what you can. You're going to take your points. Both kickers at 4,000, 4,200. I'm definitely putting in lineups on FanDuel. Tyler Bass, McPherson, 8,500 and 8,000. So normally I have these videos a little longer, but there's not a lot of value to go over. So we're going to try and see what we could do as far as getting a lineup. So this is just me off the top of my head going based off some players that I like tonight and trying to fit them in. So let's put Tyler Boyd. Let's put Isaiah McKenzie. Put T. Higgins. Man, this is going to be rough trying to get one of these guys in here. Man. Let's put Burrow, and we get 10. Let's put Allen, and we get 48, and we can't afford. We cannot afford Stephon Diggs or Gabe Davis, which I don't like. I don't like that. I think you have to captain a quarterback, but which one to captain, and then who to get rid of. So let's get rid of these guys. So, I want Diggs and I want Higgins. Let's go from there. We have 2,200. Man, this is rough. That is rough. That is definitely rough. You're not left with much of anything to do in that aspect. So, let's change it. I don't want to put a wide receiver in as captain tonight. But let's see. I don't think we save much of anything. 15.9. It's $300 we save. Let's just see if it's any different. Oh, that's Jamar Chase. We don't want Jamar Chase. Sorry. We want Stephon Diggs. Let's put Diggs in there. Another 300. We're left with 4. If we put T. Higgins in, yeah. So there's not much of a difference. That's how rough it is going to be. So, I mean, what we could do, try to see, let's put T. Higgins in. Let's put both quarterbacks in. Let's put Diggs in. And yeah, we're not saving a lot. This is not good at all. So, see if we can do a FanDuel one. DraftKings that is going to be rough trying to captain all that. So let's put Allen. We don't have to pay that. Get Burrow. Let's pay down. Let's find someone that we could pay down for. 7,500 Isaiah McKenzie. I'm okay with paying. We can't. So let's go Diggs, and then we can't go. So let's go Higgins, 8,000, and we can't afford anybody on Buffalo side. So what if we instead, I'm going to put Cole Beasley as a minimum player. That leaves us with that. Could we get, what if we put Tyler Boyd in, and we get 13, and we get Stephon Diggs? It's kind of where that's at. I don't know if I agree with that, though. But yeah, that is just how rough it is trying to get some of those star players in there. So, hope you guys did enjoy this video. If it did help, please leave a like and subscribe. That means a lot to me. And I will see you guys in the next one.